Have you ever heard a sound so chilling it freezes the blood in your veins? A wail that seems to come from another world, carried on the night wind. In Ireland, this isn't just a scary story. It's the cry of the Banshee, the legendary harbinger of death. Today, we're re-diving deep into the mist and folklore of the Emerald Isle to uncover the truth behind this terrifying and fascinating figure. Who is she? What does her scream really mean? And could she still be heard today? Stick around, because the story of the Banshee is far more complex and heartbreaking than you might imagine. The word Banshee comes from the Old Irish Banshee, which translates to woman of the fairy mound, or simply fairy woman. She's not a monster or a demon in the way we might think. Instead, she's a spirit, deeply connected to the ancient, noble families of Ireland. Think of the O'Neills, the O'Briens, the O'Connors, the O'Gradys, and the Kavanaghs. The legend says that each of these families has their own personal Banshee, a spectral guardian who has watched over their bloodline for centuries. So, what does a Banshee look like? Well, that's where things get interesting. She's a shapeshifter, and her appearance can vary dramatically from story to story. Sometimes, she's a beautiful young woman with long, flowing hair, silver, white, or red, and eyes red from weeping. She might be seen in a white or grey dress, a ghostly figure gliding through the woods or by a river. In other tales, she appears as a stately, noble matron, cloaked and dignified. And then there's her most frightening form, a stooped, ancient hag with a tangled mess of hair, long fingernails, and a terrifying malevolent gaze. It's said that the form she takes might depend on the age of the person who is about to die. A young woman for a child, a matron for an adult, and an old crone for the elderly. But no matter her form, the one thing that remains constant is her cry. It's known as Caoin, the Irish word for keening, which is a traditional form of wailing for the dead. This isn't just a simple scream. It's described as a sound filled with unimaginable sorrow and loss, a mournful, soul-piercing lament that can be heard for miles. Some say it sounds like a mix between the shriek of an owl, the cry of a baby, and the wail of a grieving woman. It's a sound that, once heard, is never forgotten. Now, here's a common misconception. The Banshee doesn't cause death. She's not a malevolent spirit coming to take a soul. She is a messenger, a harbinger. Her cry is a warning, an announcement that a member of her connected family is about to pass away. It's an act of mourning, a final tribute from the spirit world. In fact, some folklorists believe her origins lie in the real-life tradition of keening women. These were professional mourners hired to wail and sing laments at funerals in ancient and medieval Ireland, ensuring the deceased was given a proper, heartfelt send-off into the afterlife. The Banshee could be the supernatural embodiment of this very real tradition. So, if you hear the Banshee's cry, are you in danger? Not necessarily. The legend is very specific. She only wails for the impending death of someone from one of the great Gaelic families. If you hear her cry and you don't have a drop of O'Malley or McCarthy blood in you, the story goes that the cry isn't for you. It's for your neighbor, or someone else nearby who belongs to one of those ancient lineages. However, seeing a Banshee is a different story. To lay eyes upon her is considered a much more direct and personal omen of your own imminent death. So, if you hear the wail, it's a warning for the family. If you see her, it might just be a warning for you. One of the most famous Banshee stories involves King James I of Scotland. Before his assassination in 1437, a seer or fairy woman approached him, warning him of his impending doom. She was dismissed, but her prophecy came true. While Scottish, this story shares many elements with the Irish Banshee and shows how this belief was spread across Celtic cultures. Back in Ireland, countless families have their own personal tales passed down through generations, stories of a wail heard in the night, followed by the news of a relative's passing, sometimes a relative who was thousands of miles away in another country. This is another key part of the legend. Emigration doesn't break the bond. An O'Grady in Boston or an O'Neill in Sídhe could still be mourned by their family as Banshee back in the Green Hills of Ireland. Where does the Banshee come from? Her roots are deep in pre-Christian Irish mythology, connected to the Tuatha De Danann, the magical race that was said to have inhabited Ireland before humans. These beings were eventually driven underground into the Sídhe, or fairy mounds, that dot the Irish landscape. The Banshee is a remnant of this old world, a link between the mortal realm and the other world. Some theories even suggest she could be a goddess in her own right, perhaps a manifestation of the Morrigan, the ancient Irish goddess of war, fate, and death. The Morrigan was also a shapeshifter, known to appear as a crow or a crone, washing the bloody armor of soldiers destined to die in battle, an image very similar to the Banshee seen washing clothes by a river. In modern times, has the Banshee's cry faded away? Not entirely. While reports are less common than they were a century ago, stories still surface. People in rural Ireland, late at night, sometimes report hearing inexplicable, mournful cries that seem to have no earthly source. In 1980, a woman in County Mayo claimed to have heard a terrible scream outside her window one night. The next morning, she received a call that her brother, who lived in England, had died unexpectedly during the night. Coincidence? Or was it the family's spectral guardian, fulfilling her ancient duty? The legend of the Banshee is a powerful reminder of how Irish culture views death, not just as an ending, but as a significant event deeply intertwined with family, history, and the spirit world. She is a terrifying figure, yes, but also a tragic one. She is eternally bound to her family, destined to forever witness and mourn their passing. A lonely sentinel, crying out into the darkness, she represents the profound and enduring power of grief and the unbreakable bonds of kinship that even death cannot sever. So, the next time you're walking alone on a quiet night and you hear a strange, wailing sound on the wind, listen closely. It might just be an owl, or the wind itself. But it could also be something much, much older. A sound from the heart of Ireland, a lament for a soul about to depart. It could be the cry of the Banshee. Thanks for joining us on this journey into Irish folklore. What do you think? Is the Banshee real, or just a powerful myth? Let me know your own family stories or spooky encounters in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more dives into the world's most fascinating legends. See you next time.